Just be yourself is arguably some of the worst advice we all got as kids at a time when we didn't even know who we were yet. And I understand the intention behind the saying and that people and parents who say this mean well in general. But I think what they're really trying to say is don't let others dictate your life for you and understand that you can be great in what you pursue. Obviously, you're not going to say that to a kid. Just be yourself is much more easily digestible for their tiny, undeveloped brains. But I think that saying this to a child is very easily misdirected and honestly doesn't lead to many successful places. Not to say that your child needs to be someone successful necessarily in whatever way that you dictate, but I think for them to feel fulfilled and sufficient in who it is that they are, they need to be striving towards something. And this is something that I've learned through maturing myself. And I'm 21 years old now. And I think that I'm just now finally understanding what people mean when they say just be yourself, because I never liked that advice. I never thought that that was valuable to hear, because I always wondered, what does that mean? I don't get it. I'm not even sure who it is that I am yet. So telling me just be myself is like saying the sky is blue. It's a cool piece of information, I guess, but it's not really beneficial in any way. So I think that a better thing to do is first ask, where does this lead to? And once you understand that you're not going to get very far with that information, you need to see what you should do instead, which comes with the question, like, what are you aiming for? What do you define as success in your life? You know, at a certain time when you're able to understand this for yourself, that's when you can start to be yourself or even define what that means for you in your life. You know, you can't just start off unless you are just born incredible at something, or you're gifted, or, you know, the best people who are able to receive this advice are people who are naturally gifted, handsome, talented, just people who already somehow excel. But for the vast majority of individuals who aren't just born with innate talents in one direction, just being themselves isn't good enough. Like, unfortunately, like, you just may not be good enough. And this is something that I've had to internalize for myself as well. Like, there's people who we envy and admire who seem like they can just be themselves. And I keep doing the air quotes because, like, I'm just as confused about it. But it's these people who are so easily able to navigate certain areas of life that we wish we could, or at least that's perception. That's our perception of what it is because of things like social media. It seems like everyone's just so easily able to be themselves nowadays, when in reality we're all lost and trying to figure out what that means. And in my recent interest in philosophy and studying this, I think that there's good teachings there that can kind of define this for you. I'm starting to read philosophy and realizing that these old classic books and philosophers had a lot better life advice than the newer age, like, self-help people. Not to say that those books aren't bad. I've read probably too many of them. But honestly, it wasn't because I was unhappy with my life or I was trying to figure some sort of, like, way to be happy figure out some sort of way to be happy. It was more so just like in the pursuit of knowledge. That may sound corny, but, like, I genuinely am just, like, curious about what somebody else's perspective is. Like, somebody who's able to write and dissect certain situations and notice patterns and behaviors in people. I wanted to know, okay, what does this person have to say about what they define as happiness, you know? And that's a lot of what the self-help books kind of go over, is how to stop being sad, how to be happy, how to, you know, get rid of your anxieties, all this stuff. But it's like, I'm realizing that they're just like crumbled down versions of real philosophy that already exists. And it's kind of repurposed in a way to fit a modern mold of Gen Z specifically. like millennials and Gen Z, so that we can digest this stuff. But if you take the time to really start trying to at least understand these old philosophies, it seems to be way more beneficial because you get a more clear roadmap of something that's been able to stand the test of time instead of tips and tricks. You know what I mean? Like that seems like what the comparison is almost. So in doing research for this topic, I came across um, Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. I think that's how you pronounce it. These things have crazy names, is something you'll realize very quickly because they're not Western ideas for the most part. Um, and this book, or this philosophical work, I guess, full transparency, I haven't read it yet, but I am looking forward to getting into it. I just got Notes from Underground by Fyodor Dostoevsky. See what I mean? Another insane name. Still learning the pronunciation of this stuff. And that's kind of where I'm trying to step into philosophy, but it all takes time, you know what I mean? Like one step at a time, one book at a time. Anyway, this book, Nicomachean Ethics, goes over the pursuit of eudaimonia, which essentially means like succeeding through deliberate action instead of just by accident. Instead of like, I guess it's the understanding that success doesn't come to people who aren't trying to seek it out themselves, aren't taking actionable steps in order to achieve it. And it's also about the practice of your virtues and understanding where your values lie. So I guess to my limited understanding, humbly speaking, it's the understanding of what your highest succeeding self is, and then realizing the steps that it takes in order to get there. So in this sense, the way that it wraps back to the idea of what I'm talking about is it's not just cool to be yourself in the sense that you can remain where you are and that's going to be good enough. But instead, you need to be actively seeking out ways to become the best version of yourself, which in a sense is another person. So you need to transition, or I guess like you need to go through a metamorphosis at some point in your life. It sounds crazy, but it's true, bro. Like caterpillar does not remain the caterpillar, bro. He needs to spread his wings and figure out who he is. You know what I mean? Like that's what it's about. Sounds corny, but it's true. Like you get what I'm saying, and if it translates, it does. Because just remaining in this like comfortability is extremely dangerous. I think that just be yourself is a well orchestrated, friendly trap of complacency. And it might not be deliberate, you know. People are not trying to tell you this in order to like see you fail or just like see you sit around and not like strive to achieve more. But that, in a sense, is what you're headed for if you consistently find comfort in just being average, just being normal, and not trying to achieve more in life. I don't like that at all. I think that we should be trying to use our full potential as individuals and understanding what unique traits build us up so that we can visualize who it is that we could become. Bro, if you never know who you could become, how are you going to strive towards that? You know what I mean? Like if you don't know the rules of the game, how can you play? So this is a work that I'm interested in reading and understanding more of, but I think the basic idea of it is like finding fulfillment through reaching your potential, living with like a genuine purpose. So wherever you find purpose, for me, it's in Christianity. So I find my purpose through Christ. I do all things that I do through Christ, or at least I try to. That's a difficult challenge in and of itself. But for you, it may be something else. Like you could find purpose in friendship. You could find purpose in, you know, relationship. You could find purpose in being a providing member of your community. Wherever it is, I think that finding some sort of driving force in your life that you're able to consistently show up for is extremely important, because it builds a reason for you to be getting up in the morning. It builds a strong foundation of truths that correlate to your life that you can now operate from, you know? And I just think religion in general is extremely important, because that does become this foundation. I've talked about this in previous videos, but so yeah, so fulfillment, purpose, and just like recognizing like who you want to be morally and intellectually, instead of just like borderline happiness. Like, you don't want to define necessarily, okay, what do I look like as a happy individual? Because there's more layers to that. And I believe this is what Aristotle's like talking about when he's discussing this topic. It's like happiness is such a vague term now. You know what I mean? Like, asking someone, are they happy, or asking someone, what does happiness mean, is very unique to each individual. But I think that when you have a purpose and when you have something to stand for, when you have a firm stance on things, and your morality is like tied to your characteristics and how you carry yourself throughout the world, like what is on the forefront of your mind and how do you speak to people, what really matters to you on a day-to-day basis, you know? Are you someone who's snappy and doesn't have time for, you know, conversating with the homeless dude who's on the street? And that's maybe a bad example. That's, you know, people think about that in different ways. Or are you somebody who is trying to respect everybody's time, you know? Like, so defining that and having like a strong understanding of who it is that you actually would like to become, so that you can know who you are first before just be yourself, I think is extremely important. And speaking of the morality aspect, another philosopher that I'm being heavily influenced to look into is Friedrich Nietzsche. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And I've heard so much about the Übermensch, which I guess translates to Superman, and essentially is his idea of a man who, or person in general, who has reached this kind of ceiling of understanding with themselves that they can kind of define where their morality and personality lie for themselves in their own life. And then now that's a place where they're able to operate from, instead of what the norm would be, which is conforming to society's, what society wants to place on you for your own morality. So you're not just conforming to what others believe, but instead building as a result of your own understanding of yourself and who it is that you would like to become. That's my understanding of it. I guess he says it's like transcending the ordinary self to become a creator of values. And that would be in contrast to just a consumer of what the values in life should be, because you were told that it's important to pay taxes, it's important to, you know, go to school, get a job, and stay there for 40 years until you retire. It's not like you can avoid everything in life and just kind of be your own like LARPing freeloader and just like say, nah, I'm gonna, you know, I'm just gonna live my own life. Like, you know, gang, unfortunately we all gotta pay taxes. That's just how it is. But like, I think on a more, on a more like values level and where it is that you would like to operate from, this can be extremely beneficial, because, dude, like, this is not just a problem in Gen Z. We're all told, you know, it's okay to just be yourself and we should just do this. But then where does that actually lead? Because if you look at Gen Z today, we are being told how we should be and then identifying with that and kind of like soaking it up to understand our identity, bro. Like, we're constantly on social media, and if we see one thing or if we give our attention to a certain aspect of it, now our entire feed is just that thing. And so it's shaping our reality. It's shaping our identity. We're being told who we should be and who we are and why it's so important to be this way before we even get a chance to decide it for ourselves, bro. And it may be ironic that I'm like making this video to try and, I'm not trying to tell people who they should be necessarily, but I just want to say that you should have an open mind about shaping who it is that you are before you just try and walk through life aimlessly and adapt some random personality trait that you now consistently identify with as a result. If that makes any sense. If you feel me, you feel me. You get what I'm saying? You probably have felt this same way before, that you don't really know why it is that you feel this way or why you think a certain way, but somewhere along the lines you just kind of are like that. Nah, bro, we need to break free from this. I think it's very poisonous and toxic. And it's important to like identify what your own standards are for living. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, who knows? You know, everything's just gonna fall into place for you, I guess. Nothing's gonna happen intentionally. It's all gonna be by accident. If everything happens by accident, you're gonna have to get very lucky to end up in a good position. You got like that. To me, that makes sense, and to me, this is why it's important to understand these things. This is why it's important to not just consume media that is trying to shape our beliefs, but kind of operate from a place of open-mindedness. You know what I mean? Like, it's far too many people out here. I'm a Christian. I will have a conversation with anybody. I don't hold grudges. I don't hate people. That's not something that's in my vocabulary. Like I may have a closed-minded position sometimes, and I'm guilty of it. I'm not perfect, but I understand that my Bible tells me to be open-minded and to like consider others. You know what I mean? It's not to say that I'm going to abandon my belief system in order to conform to your reality because I want to make you feel good. That's not what it is at all, and I'm never on that timing. It's more so just those who have ears, let them hear. It doesn't mean that I need to attack you when you have a different belief system than me. The one thing that you and I have in common is that we're human beings, man. And I've always had that in my heart. I'm not trying to abandon my humanity because of not even just a belief system. I'm not gonna just like minimize Christianity and the Bible to a belief system. I'm getting off topic here, but you just follow me. I'm not gonna minimize my humanity because somebody online told me that this is what I need to believe, and if other people in my vicinity don't believe it, then they're my enemy. No, you're not. You're not my enemy. I meet new people every day. I talk to incredible people, young, old, male, female, all different types of colors, races, religion, whatever, dude. I'm not worried about that. I operate off of my own system of morality. I'm trying to reach the Ubermensch that Nietzsche is talking about, bro. And I think that this is important for all of Gen Z to strive towards, because if not, then oh well, we just ended up wherever. We don't understand the long-term effects of this brainwashing that we're being accustomed to, I don't think. So yeah, that's just something that's been on my mind recently. Thank you for listening. Don't just be yourself.